I don't know. In one of them pictures, you had your mouth open like you was about to eat some cookies or something like that. I don't understand what was going on in that one.
I don't know. What's
You
with the
know,
theme music though?
I don't know. That was just I just was playing with something. That's not
Okay.
real. You
Okay.
take that out. I just was playing with it.
No, I mean you could do that at least once.
That was the free music that came with the thing I was doing. So
Okay.
sometimes you gotta do free 99. You know,
I'm saying you couldn't add our music to that.
to that one, I don't know if I can. I gotta check with some things, but from what I was seeing, the app that I was using at the time, I could not.
Okay.
So this is this is the retake, the remix, the remix. We recorded this like 2 weeks ago, and we can't find the file, so we're gonna have to do this all again. It's kind of like the movie The Wood, when he said the pastor got arrested for impersonating a real pastor, so they're gonna have to come back and do it again the next weekend. Basically the same thing. But this is In the Fall podcast, episode 1.0. We got to get this all fixed up. My system is acting up today, so I will be better on the next one. It's always about doing better. Brandon, did your lights just go out?
No, if I move, my lighting's bad. I need to figure out how to fix that. But baby steps. We're here. We're gonna do it. We'll work on that.
Do you have anything written down?
No.
Okay, cool. I just was making sure because I didn't write nothing down for this one. So why are we here? There's a guy, Simon Sinek. He does a TED talk, and it says start with why.
Okay.
So he has his in his analogy, he's talking about the TiVo. So when the TiVo first came out, this is what this whole thing is about. So the TiVo was coming out, and he was like, "Hey, I got this thing called a TiVo that you can record your TV and watch it later, so that you don't miss stuff." And TiVo did horribly bad. But if you start with why, and the why was when he did it backwards, he's like, "Hey, are you a person that likes to watch TV on your own terms? Would you like something that would help you to record your shows and be there when you want them to be there? Well, I got this device called a TiVo. Do you want to buy it?" So by reversing it and starting with the why, he was able to get more sales and make it more meaningful. People were like, "Oh, that's what that thing is," instead of "I got this TiVo." So that's kind of the same thing while we're here today in this, I guess, origin story. I don't know if I'm the bad guy or the good guy. Is there a bad guy, good guy in this story?
No, it's our villain origin story, basically.
You just said villain, though.
I know. We're all sinners.
Huh?
We're all sinners.
Okay. So we're all sinners. We're all villains.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I get that.
My why is Holy Spirit. I don't like to talk, so that's my why.
Yeah. So as we start this origin story, talking about why we're doing this, for y'all that don't know, Brandon was the guy with George. So Brandon don't talk. People recognize him like, "I think I know you from somewhere," and it was, I was a loud one. Brandon's always been a quiet one, and so that was part of the reason why Brandon wanted to I think you wanted to get your voice out there. You wanted to something moved you. Not something moved you. You felt you had to talk to me about some things.
Oh yeah,
you felt like we had to go to the world. You wanted to get your voice. And what did you think I was saying, man?
I was still on the whole college thing, so I thought you were saying I want to get my voice out back then. And I was like, no, you had conversations for me, which I loved.
Yeah,
I could skip all the small talk.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. You seem dumb.
He already said it.
Over here, yeah.
Yeah. So what we thought about and what Brandon brought this to me is looking at from our backgrounds and what the world is going through, what people go through. When you talk about, he said in the beginning, we're all sinners, we're all villains, because we are born in the world until we accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. And so with our backgrounds being similar but different, we're both Black. That's where it starts. Yeah. We both were raised in the church in a way. The church has been a part of our life. Religion has been a part of our life, but in different aspects and different capacities. And so I don't know why I'm wearing an Iowa State, repping Iowa State in this podcast, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I got to get my own brand stuff on next time.
I thought about it, but I couldn't find my hat.
You had it last week.
The Scully? I couldn't find it. I don't know. There's kids in my house all the time though.
Okay, I got Scully somewhere. So really when we talk about Into the Fog, it came from a movie, Brown Sugar, when Mos Def and Tay Diggs were talking about him in the radio station. They're sitting there and he's talking about Humphrey Bogart, dudes walking off in the fog. And make sure you cover up, the label on that, unless we're gonna get money for it. So what is that? Is that a Canadian water?
Yeah, so you're just gonna say it?
I'm gonna say it. Yeah, so I'm gonna say it so that now Canadian Water knows that they are on here, and so that if we want to get some money from them, we can reach out
or
to
just
them.
Free products. That'd be great.
Free, yeah. Just I don't, I haven't had Canadian. I didn't know they still made Canadian Water.
It's great.
I remember. And I got to make sure that I put my oil. I got to get my makeup artist to get my oily self. Black people are always oily on camera. I got to get my lights fixed too.
It's fine. You're a married spud. It's all good.
I appreciate that. And so going back to who I am, George Trice, born in Cleveland, inner city Cleveland, moved out further and further from the inner city to the suburbs to stay out of trouble and get a better life. Grew up in the church with my dad. So
just one second.
Yeah.
When did you first see white people? Just wanted to throw that in there.
I saw white people I had a white teacher. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't believe that she was white. I just thought something was different. Like, I'm young. My postman was white.
Okay.
So I saw white people. Okay. But when I saw TV and saw so many together. So the story, now you want me to tell the story. So and you can ask this is on my mom, and you can ask my mom this story. So 8th grade year, I am moving to a new suburb, and the school district that I'm going to is the number 1 to 3 school district in the state of Ohio. It's always, I think, in the top 10, top 15 or whatever in the country. And my high school in this area was 1,400 students, and there were less than 80 Black students. And I get there 8th grade, 3 months left of my 8th grade year. We go in to see the school. Bell rings. Kids are coming out of school. I don't think I see a Black person. I don't know. I might have saw one Black person. I don't know. As we left this school, I told my mom, I'm like, what's wrong with all those people? Why they look like that? Because I had never seen a group of white people together. I saw my postman, but didn't really think, okay, that's the postman. I had a teacher in school at some point in time. Oh, that's just the pale lady in school. Like, didn't really think about it. And then you see a whole bunch of white people together, and you don't know what to expect, because growing up, you're told one thing or another thing. You're as you grow up, you're told these things about people that don't look like you. And so, it was the most interesting time of my life to see that. And then white people was wild. Like, I didn't know what to expect. They did things differently.
Yeah. The first time my friend was like, I was going home from basketball practice and he cussed at his mom, and I was just waiting for the blow up, and she just kept driving. I was like, what is this world we live in?
More meatloaf, mom. Get it up yourself. It's like the commercial of the little boy calling his grandmother asking for a snack and make his old grandmother get up. Like, it was different. So I had to had some learnings there. But at that time also is when I kind of stopped going to church a little bit.
Way to pull that back.
Yeah, that's what I do. So growing up, I went through church. We would go through church. We would go every Sunday. That's just what we did as a Black family. You go to church. Wasn't really too involved in the church. Was just there. And then when I was 6 years old or so, my sister, she's 3 years younger than me, she went into a coma. She got a cut on her knee that got infected because she had some metal in her body, because she had ate these staples from when you had to put the plastic and stuff on your windows to stop breezes from coming through. She had ate those big staples from the staple gun. Knee got infected. She went into a coma for about 3 months. So at 3 years old, she went into a coma. When she came out, we had to reteach her everything. But before she came out, my dad, he said, he prayed to God. He said, if you bring her out of this, I will devote my life to you. And so I don't know, again, when that was, how the timing, but that happened. Again, it was 3 month time period. She came out of a coma. She came out of that coma. My dad went home. He shaved off his Jerry curl, and we called him Donut Head because when he shaved it off, he had a bald spot in the top, and so we called him Donut Head because he didn't have like the Homer Simpson, but it was a donut. Okay. And he went there. He sold all of his records off. Got rid of the big stereo in the house because he used to party. He used to have, they used to have parties at the house. He was a man of the world. And when he did that, he said, I'm devoting it to you. That switch went off, and we went to church 6 days a week. I sang in the choir. I played drums for the choir. I was a deacon. We did Bible study. We had men's study. We had to clean the church, and then we had Sunday. So I had 1 day off of the week, and so was forced at a young age from when I was 6 to 7-ish to go to church 6 days a week. That was predominantly, for about 3 years in a row. My mom divorced him when I was 10. So about 3 more years of that, we were in there for 6 days a week. And then they got divorced when I was 10 years old. And I still went to my dad's house with my sister every summer. And so I had to do it again in the summers, 6 days a week in the church every summer. And so as I got older, that kind of turned me off from the whole religion, going to church thing, because I'm like, I'm in church all day, every day. And this is not me as a kid to just go from, I can't watch The Fresh Prince or I can't watch The Simpsons. And, we can't use Johnson & Johnson products because at that time they were said that Johnson & Johnson worshiped the devil. So we couldn't use Johnson & Johnson products. Wow. There were just these things that, my stepdad, I know all the songs to the Disney songs. We had Disney sing-alongs on VHS. So I know a lot of songs. I was singing some other day. My wife's like, how do you know that? Don't ask me how I know that. I do. And, that was just a life we had to kind of be, like kind of desensitized to the world and kind of like sheltered in a sense to what he wanted us to hear and what he wanted us to learn and believe. And so that was my experience with the church and religion. Love my pastor, still talk to my pastor until he passed a few years ago. Pastor Dickerson was always my pastor. We were Pentecostal. My bishop, he passed. Bishop Ellis passed, I want to say 8 years ago or something like that, I believe as well. But that's what I grew up with. And so that changed my world and my trajectory until we are where we are now about kind of where we have in this conversation.
Okay. So we met at 18 and I knew you had like church history and you had some connection to Kurt Franklin. So I never really thought to have these deep conversations with you because I just assumed we were the same. And was about a little bit over a year ago. I just got I guess my pastor calls it a nudge from the Holy Spirit to just check on my friends and see where they're at. And so I had the conversation with you and it kind of led to the beginning of this. Just we are, like you said, have similar backgrounds, but like our endpoint at this part of our lives is slightly different. Probably more than slightly, but
Yeah. Well, what's your background then?
Well, like my dad's a preacher. We'll go more into that later. And I went to Lutheran school. My parents both grew up Baptist. I went to a Methodist church my whole life. And now I go to a non-denominational church. So I've been in a church, like you said, like my whole life. And just recently, I just decided to make it more important because, things are getting real out here.
You ain't lied. So for y'all to see, I don't have it blurred, and this is just where my desk is set up right now. But I got a gun safe back there. There's a gun safe back there. There's about, I can't tell you my number in there because you don't need to know that. Right. Just know I got a few of different sizes and calibers to handle different things in case it comes to that. Protect your family. You don't want to be in a gunfight with a knife.
Studying the aspects of being a warrior in a biblical sense. So like you're doing well.
Yeah. You have to, again, I looked at when 2020 happened and the world kind of changed with COVID is when I started to ramp up on being prepared. Everybody always has a whole bunch of toilet paper and water in their house and
I
things
don't
like
understand the
that.
toilet paper thing.
You gotta
We
you
don't
gotta
need. We
wipe.
can't go into it because
Okay.
the
All right.
why is
Well, in the future, we're gonna have 3 seashells. That's what Demolition Man said.
eventually, yes,
Eventually, 3 seashells. But I looked at that and I said, I don't know what this world looks like. You know, at that time, COVID happened, and Black people walking around in masks in the stores was not something I ever thought was going to happen in my life. And so for me, I actually went and got fun masks. In the beginning, you have all the little plain white masks and things
Yeah.
like that. And I was like, I tried to get fun masks. Like I had one that was Tasmanian Devil's Mouth. But I'll walk into Home Depot when this kind of thing first started, and I'll pull my mask down. Hey, y'all, it's me, it's George. You know me. And then I put my mask up. And they all knew me because I was doing projects and things like that. And so, you got to be prepared for what's going to happen in the world. And I didn't want anybody to come and try to take it. Didn't think it was going to happen. But when you look at that same time when COVID happened, there was social injustice up in Minneapolis with George Floyd. And so a lot of stuff happened right at that beginning of that time, which put people on edge. And I don't think we've ever recovered from that. I can say this has nothing to do with this podcast, but I can say, Rodney King, 1992, Rodney King, and that verdict, that changed the landscape of LA. That changed the landscape of a lot of things going on because when those officers were let go. Same thing, we go, what's that, 28 years later? And you think about 28 years later, something else similar happens in the situation. So you think you move forward, but it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We never really have gotten to where we need to get to. But I think that's where religion, belief, spirituality all comes into play because it helps you to deal with the stuff. So that's a segue to just basically the realness of the conversations that we're going to have. We'll have other people jump on with us. But again, this is something that Brandon had on his heart to do. And I'm like, let's do it. And so that's where we are today.
So just to be a little bit more detailed, I basically asked you, like, where are you at with Jesus? I don't know if I worded it that way, but that's where I was trying to lead to. And you then told me, I'll let you say what you said or like how you feel about it. But then I asked you why. And that's what brought us here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, I think when Brandon and I talked, we talked about the difference between spirituality and religion and the church in general. And because I had gone for so long, I decided to take a break. I decided when I was able to make the decision to not go to church, I wasn't going to go to church. And so that's what happened. I got to sneeze. Hold on.
And while you're sneezing, I'm going to just remind you that you also dislike the church because you can't go to white people church.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was getting to. So it's a couple things in there. It was, one of the things was, again, coming from the churches that I came from, the churches I went to were smaller until I went to Pentecostal PCC, Pentecostal Church of Christ, Bishop Ellis. When I went there, I saw the difference between a large church and a small church that I went to, a sister church. And never really thought anything of it. You get your tithe, you give your offerings. We did that every week. And when I got older, and that's when kind of mega churches started coming. And we all have these, prejudices or stereotypes or predetermined things you think. And so there's one mega church in Ohio. This pastor and his wife drove Range Rovers. Each drove a Range Rover. They had a helicopter. They had like $1 million house, and like a real $1 million house, not like $1 million house today. That house is $1 million, but ain't worth $1 million. But they had a real $1 million, what you would think $1 million house was. And when I see this mega church, it was called, I'm not going to say the name of the church, but this large church And I look at that and I said, wow, they're getting too much money from people and they're buying all this stuff and they're flaunting and they have the Rolexes and things like that. Prejudged them and found out that this couple had ran businesses before and had money. And so when they had started this church, they invested their money in to start this church. It had a basketball court in it for the kids programs. They bought a big, old basically shopping plaza and turned it into this church. And so I'm like, oh, these mega churches, they have three sessions a day and, getting all this money and things like that. And that kind of turned me off from the mega churches. And so the same thing in California, you go to these big churches where you see the bumper stickers on the back of people's car, like CCV is a big church out here, Radiant Church, you'll see stickers on people's cars. And so, I started going to, as Brandon say, white churches. And I went to these churches in California. And I moved to California in 2008, went to church and was trying to find a church with my friend from high school, my ex-girlfriend from high school. She lived out there and she was telling me where churches to go. And so I started checking out these churches, and I normally would sit in one spot every single time and watch the sermon. And okay, boom, I was in and out in about an hour and 15 minutes. All right, cool. That's good because I was in church growing up on Sundays. I was in there for 3 hours at my church, had dinner in the church in the basement. Then you went to your other church and had another 2 hour, 3 hour service there. So it was long days. That's what I was used to. And Brandon Lynn know what I'm talking about there too. Mm-hmm. And so then one day I went and someone was sitting in the seats area that I was normally sitting. So I'm like, all right, I'll sit on the side. So I went and sat on the side of the pulpit. And when I'm sitting there, I'm just looking around, observing, looking at people, because I don't really get into the praise and worship. I'll sing the song a little bit, but I don't get into it. I don't find the Holy Ghost right away. And I'm just observing people, kind of people watching and stuff like that, because again, this is different. There's a lot of white people in this church, and I grew up in an all-black church. And I look up and I saw this clock, and the clock was counting down. And I'm like, oh, this clock is counting down. What is this clock counting down? Okay, that says 15 minutes. Okay, and it's starting. Okay, they're playing music. Look at the clock. It's like 2 minutes left. They're wrapping up with their prayer. Okay, tithe and offering and the sermon. Got 45 minutes, and the clock is counting down. And when I saw that, when I looked at that and I said, so you're telling me that you are going to have a sermon that's 45 minutes. So no matter what comes to your, what the Spirit moves you to say, you have to say it within that 45 minutes. And then we're out of here. And then you got another group coming in, giving their tithes and offerings right away as well. So you got two services at 9 a.m., at 10:15 or 10:30, and maybe even another noon service for the later people. But when I saw that it was a time thing, I'm like, how can you get the word and say that you can get the word out in that short amount of time? And so that is where I decided that it was kind of not for me. I tried to find other churches in the same sense, but all the churches, either mixed, you say non-denominational that you're in, but even the mixed churches that I was at, I would see the same thing. There was a time frame because they had more than one sermon. And for me, it's just like, I don't want the sermon to be limited based on your time frame. I want the word to come to you as the word is supposed to come to you, and let it go, let it flow. If it goes longer, it goes longer. If it's shorter word and it's what your spirit moves you, that's what I was at. And so that's kind of where I was at with the church thing.
Okay. So with you questioning, is it fair to say the validity of Jesus and his truth claim of being God? Why would the Spirit moving someone frustrate you, I guess, if you're not even sure it was real?
Say that another way. The Spirit moving.
You're saying you don't like the time frame, timeline, and there's arguments for and against, but it's not really important to my argument. If you're unsure of the validity of Jesus, his truth claim of being God, why would the ability of the Spirit to move or not move be a concern to you if you're unsure?
Because I would think that if God is speaking to me through this vessel, through this person, then I want to feel that connection. And if I'm going somewhere 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever times, and I'm not feeling that connection to the words that they are saying, because again, I believe in a higher power.
Right.
I believe that. I believe that there are some things that aren't explained, where you think about what science explains versus what the Bible explains. And as we talk about the different versions of the Bible, and this is about to get political real quick, but if this is real, what Trump is talking about, they're talking about some Bible that he endorsed, and they wanted to get that in the schools, and it takes out some certain things. If that is some truth to that, again, that's a different another version of the Bible. And when you have these different versions and have these different study Bibles of people's accounts of how they look at the Bible and how they decipher the Bible, I look at that and say, if there's all these different ways to look at it, all these different religions that have some overlapping, if you look at a Venn diagram and all these religions have some overlap, what is the truth and why are there so many different ones? And so that is where my questioning comes from, is because I'm seeing so many different ways to look at this story that people have told over the years, and people have told this story, continuing to tell this story with a person that's been dead for so long. And it's the same thing. I feel like sometimes if, I stubbed my toe, and then it turns out to be, once 5 people tell it, my toe fell off because I hit it on a bear trap, and now I don't have a big toe. Like, the way things kind of change as they keep going further and further out when somebody tells a different story, or the whatever version or whatever they're hearing. And so that's kind of, I think, where that time frame bothers me, to say that, hey, I didn't get moved in that. There may be some people that get moved in that, but if I see the same person get moved all the time, every single week, and you see that same person in that same seat with their hand up, I'm not gonna speak in tongues because I just be making some stuff up. But when you had that person speaking in tongues every single week, and their hand is to Jesus every single week at the same time, and they are the same loud person, and they're getting moved at every single sermon, that's where I'm like, I can't believe you. I can't believe that person. It could be true, but that's just me. And that's one of the things that I have the reservation on.
Okay. You said a lot. I don't know what's the best thing to touch on, but
let's pick one. I mean, we got 30 more minutes in this episode. We don't want to get too deep. We want the people to know.
The funny part about it is, and in my church when I was growing up, depending upon the song, my friends and I knew what person to move away from, because we knew something was about to happen, and we didn't want to get swung because they were, backhand. I didn't want any of that. So we were like, oh shoot, tomorrow is he's singing tomorrow right now. We need to get out, Miss Jackson's way, because she's gonna feel it. So like, that was the thing. But the thing I was gonna say to you, there are people who fake it, but you should have asked them what they're going through or what they were brought out of, because you might see that they were genuine, basically. What I'm getting at.
Not saying that they're not genuine. I don't believe that is a word I would use for them. I wouldn't use the disingenuous type of wording. If someone believes in something so hard, I get it. And I'm going to equate this to Iowa State football. I'm going to equate this to the Browns. I'm going to Kansas. I'm going to equate this to that.
You might as well bring up the Cavaliers. Are actually doing well right now.
We don't got to bring up the Cavaliers. That's just truth right there. That's the truth.
That's Jesus, not the truth. It is the truth, not the Cavaliers.
Georges Niang. It's Iowa State.
Okay.
He got more wins than. Yeah, whatever. I don't. That's a weird stat. But what I'm saying is, I am not on the field with Rocco Beck. When he's out there and he's on there throwing the ball, I can't get mad at him for that. I'm not the quarterback of a Division I school throwing a ball to some people, whether the route was run right or incorrectly. and fans in there. You have these fans, and I think it's more so for the NFL, but they are so engulfed that it can ruin someone's day when a loss happens. Like they were on the field. You weren't on the field. You were in the stands watching a game. And if you let that affect your whole time, then there's some things that you gotta work on. And I look at that and I equate that because there's some people that get that get so engulfed. But but the same thing is like last January, you went to the Bike Expo for me with Kira, and there was the KU game on it. You probably was watching on your phone and listening to it or something like that.
Yeah.
But again, you don't let it affect your whole day. Well, sometimes because you'll text us.
I've grown out of it. You
were texting people during the game because Kansas was up when Iowa State and Kansas were playing football a couple weeks ago. You were texting during the game, knowing that people didn't want to talk to you during the game when Kansas was winning. Because but I look at that and I say the same thing with the religion, with catching the Holy Ghost every single week. We didn't need that. This is an Iowa State podcast. Your name's Iowa. Your name's Iowa. I'm a Trice.
Yep.
Let's keep it Iowa State.
We boys, but
but no talk. No talk. High tide. That commercial, high tide. You gotta know what it is. But so I just say, no, I'm not going to go to that person and ask that person, what they came out of, what they made it out of. Again, that person, like you said, they could not even be listening to the sermon, but are in the house of God and praising God for what God has done for them. And that could be what they are doing.
Yeah,
I understand that. But growing up in your church, when they wearing them pretty hats and everything like that, they showing out. They showing up and showing out. And a lot of them is just showing up to show out. And we all know some of the people, when they left that church, they was not godly. Right. It's like, so those are just some of the things when I think about it. It's like, I know I never asked a person, but again, if you are listening, if I'm listening to the word and I'm trying to get something from that word, I know it's not going to hit me every single time. But if I'm there and I'm giving my time and I'm devoting my time to hear the word of God, I do want to have a connection to it. And if I know in my mind, I guess if I know I'm already going in with a preconceived notion that it's only going to be 45 minutes, that may get in the way of me actually hearing some of the words. Some of them are really good messages, but I may be missing out on some things because of my own biases.
Yeah. The devil likes to distract us and to steal and destroy. So like just a slight distraction that they get you thinking about the 45 minutes. I mean, he's doing his job.
How the devil just got in the church. He just comes in the church. He's there. There's a lot of people. A lot of devils in there.
The devil believes in Jesus.
The devil, they fighting. It's a battle. Yeah. I get it. I get all that. And as we talk about these things, these are the things that we are going to get into on the podcast. Again, as you talking about your experience to a question or a thought that I have around this. And that's what makes it good, because we're not going to agree on everything, and it's getting these things out, but these conversations don't really happen because again, if people have these conversations, they may think less of people. They may not. You never know.
So I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit. All right. So you said religion. Mm-hmm. That makes me kind of like, I get Christianity technically is religion, but I kind of want to separate myself from religion for two reasons. The main one is Jesus wants us to have a personal relationship with him, but like my flesh doesn't like a lot of things that people who say they're Christian do. And I'm not saying they're not Christian. I just saying I don't want to be associated with it. That's an inner struggle that I have. Let me think if I got a good example. You talked about the church showing out. People feel like when they go to the church, they're going to be judged, and that's real. Right. So I don't like that part of it. I feel like the church should be everyone should feel welcome there, regardless of how they come. They should feel welcome. That's my personal belief. Not to say their actions should be welcome, but they should feel welcome. So like I, for a long time, especially in college, didn't like calling myself a Christian. I said I follow Christ because I didn't like a lot of things I saw people, and some of it was just like racism. Like, how can you justify slavery through the Bible and say that that's real? That kind of stuff made me shun away from putting myself into that bubble of Christian, just because I thought that word was tainted. And to a degree, I think it is.
Mhm.
And I think it's one of the reasons that keeps people away from literally the best thing ever.
I don't know if I don't really know if I ever feel that people were judged in my churches. And when I talk about the people getting, I guess you could say I'm
So
judging people.
no one said bless your heart in your church.
I mean, that's passive aggressive. Everybody said that.
Right.
You know, everybody said that. You know, and that is that passive aggressive. That is that judging. I mean, that you can say that is
If an
judging.
ugly baby came in and you heard a bless your heart, there's judgment going.
There's no ugly baby, Brandon.
There's definitely ugly babies.
There's no spoon. There's no spoon. Some babies are yes, but what I'm saying is I feel like there were people in the church that judged. I don't feel that the person that mattered, the pastor, my pastor never showed judgment.
Okay.
I didn't care about. So when I looked at it, I was there for the pastor. I was there for the choir. I was there for, you know, my church. The other people out there, I could care less what they were doing and how they were judging and how they were, you know, portraying themselves. You know, I'm judging them because I'm like, okay, that's not what you said outside the church the other day. I heard you say filth, floor and filth like
Right.
all day. And, you know, that's not what you were saying wasn't godly. What you were saying wasn't walking with Christ as you said it. And, you know, I would see those things. And yes, I heard those things. But I mean, from my pastor, I think all were welcome. And I trusted the words that my pastor said. People in general, I don't trust people in general. I don't think, again, this is like the same kind of thing we're having these conversations. You can't have these real conversations because you will be judged. You will be looked at differently.
You said you don't trust people in general. You should, if like not every person in church is saved, but you should be able to walk into a church, see a saved person, and trust them. In theory, that should be what happens. You should feel safe. People should feel safe walking into church.
I don't feel unsafe walking in church.
I'm just saying, but that's not the case. There's some churches I would walk into and I wouldn't feel safe in.
If you're going down to a church down in Mississippi, down somewhere where you know you shouldn't be.
It wouldn't have to be in Mississippi. There's people
in Reynolds, Iowa. You shouldn't be in Reynolds, Iowa, or Tama, Iowa.
Preach Trump on Sundays. Yeah, I wouldn't feel safe there.
Yeah,
and that's in Iowa.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I don't believe that Trump should be in church. Right. Like not that he shouldn't be in church, but you shouldn't be preaching him in church. You should be preaching God, and you should be talking about things that have to do with the Bible, and not, you know, they say what, false prophets. Not saying he's a false prophet, but if you are looking at him as an idol, I think he gets looked at as an idol sometimes. And people put the wrong vision on him as a godly figure. Like, you know, he's like,
the crazy part about it is he doesn't represent himself as a godly person.
No. I'm not saying.
I know you're not. I'm talking about the people. The people like I'm just agreeing with you. They put him in that position to make them feel okay about liking him. Yeah. But like he didn't represent himself that way. They did.
No, and I still don't think to this day he still represents himself that way. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when people put him on that pedestal,
right,
that's putting somebody above God. He's not God, and everybody below God is below God.
Right.
There's nobody on God's level.
That's my point is I'm agreeing with you. That's what makes it even worse in my mind that they're doing that because he didn't even tell them to do it. They did it on their own. That's my point. Like they're putting them in the godly level without him even like telling them to. He didn't even like lie to them about it. They're like, "Oh, we like you."
Yeah, I think in that situation it's the priorities or the focus. Like for me, if I can get a good tea time at a nice golf course during church time, I might not be in church.
Okay.
So you look at that. You look at it. I mean, if the Browns are in the playoffs on a Sunday and it's during church time, I'm not a Browns fan anymore. I've given up on them. But back in the day when I was like 2 weeks ago when I was a Browns fan, I would be like, oh, Sunday playoffs. I mean, I might have to be there instead of church. Like you find some excuse to represent or to, I guess, follow what's important to you.
Yeah.
And I think that people have to, are just start determining what's important to them. Because I think that even if you're not a true Christian or a true Jew or a true Muslim or whatever the case may be, and you don't show all the characteristics of being godly, of being what a Christian is or whatever, but if you're in church every Sunday, and that's what you do when you're in church every Sunday or every Saturday, depending on your religion, whatever that may be, whatever day you're supposed to be in church and you're there, to me, you are showing that you believe in something. No matter what your outer things you say outside of those walls, you religiously go to that place on those days. And you religiously try to not miss those days. No matter what you do on the other 6 days of the week, you're there worshiping the God that you are for whatever your religion is. So I do feel like while people have their issues inherently, people that go to church, it's like, why do they go to church every Sunday if they're not going to do the things that they're supposed to do in their life to show that they are that person?
I can only speak for experience and like assume from what I've seen, but for me, I wanted to be better, and it was hard. I mean, there's still things that I'm trying to, rectify or reconcile with God, and that's going to be a constant struggle. But I do know my salvation comes from God, so I'm trying to give like more and more to Him, and like the more I do, the more I realize there's still more to give. So it's one of the reasons why I'm here right now.
Yeah. No, I get that. I don't know what I don't know. I think when we did our first take, I still have my original Bible from when I was a kid here. It's in my office. My dad sent it to me. And I have that Bible in here. I don't read it or go through it. I haven't read it or gone through it in a while. Because I honestly don't know why. I think about it. I think about I was supposed to go to church and a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't get the family moving. The church was like 45 minutes or so away. So by the time I got the family moving, we would have been late to the church. If I'm late, I don't show up. I don't want to walk in late, especially if it's only 45 minutes before the timer goes off. I don't know if this church is like that. I don't know. I don't know if it's a turkey in the oven or what they got, but so we didn't make it out there. This Sunday potentially could make it out there. They even invited me to an event. They had a kids' day on Saturday, last Saturday, not this past Saturday, but 2 Saturdays ago. But my daughter has dance on Saturday, so we couldn't make it. She was done with dance at like noon, and it went to like 1:30. But again,
shout out to Aria.
Yeah, Aria doing her thing. She had cheerleading tonight. I'm surprised she ain't busted in here and interrupt my podcast. Because it's 9:00 my time. So dang, it's 9:00 my time. I didn't realize that. She gets out of dance on Mondays at like 7. She gets home about 7:30. So
okay.
Yeah.
Just to circle back to the origin story. So one of the things that's, I guess, important, a significant part of my canon story was after some disappointment with my early college experience, I became depressed and suicidal. And I was very like introspective. So I had a journal and everything like that, but I was like private, and my roommate read it without asking me. And like, he wasn't like mean about it, but like, it just felt like betrayed. And I didn't want to be in that room anymore. And I didn't know you very well at the time. So I don't even know why I even asked you, or you might have just offered. I don't know. Maybe you just noticed that I was like just down or whatever. I don't know. But you let me stay in your room. And I've always felt very grateful for that. And so when I felt the nudge from the Holy Spirit to like check on my friends to see where they're at. So I was just trying to make sure that heaven is as populated with all my friends. I reached out to you, and that was one of the big reasons why, because that's the best thing in my life. So I want to make sure that you had that as well.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think I told you you wrote me a letter one time. I have it in my safe back here.
I guess it is caught in the fog. I can't be mad, you know.
You wrote me a letter one time. But I'm gonna be, and I don't know. I think I've had this conversation with you, but I know I've had this conversation with Lisa. I blamed you for a lot of the stuff that happened in my life in a negative way for years. And I don't know if I ever told you that. And I think
you haven't said those words, but you said it in other ways.
Yeah. So you talk about, so for me, you talk about inherently, like about good people, bad people. I think everybody's inherently good, trust things. I've had my trust thing. When I talk about trust people, I don't like people, I don't trust them. That's grown on me as years have gone by. As you get older, you get kind of tarnished from certain things. Whether it was us being down in Reynolds, Iowa, getting pulled over because we're Black in a small town in Reynolds. They said we were speeding.
You didn't blame me for that, though, did you?
No.
Oh,
I'm just saying, like those police instances, or the police instance, when the police, the cop followed me for a week and then put me over in a come and go on a Thursday night before Thursday, puts me in the back of the car, handcuffs me, and then says, I'm not going to get my car back. He's going to search my car. I'm going to jail, blah, 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 blah. And then homeboy that was an undercover cop that we worked out with and played ball with pulls up and then handles the situation. So those are things that have jaded me. But inherently, I think all people are good. And when you needed that help, I don't know if we were playing ball or something like that, because we played ball all the time. I don't know if we were playing ball and I saw that you needed something, but I'm like, I'll just come to the crib. If you need the key or you need to let me unlock it, just, whatever, just go ahead and go in there or whatever. Because I felt like, and at that time I had the single room, so I didn't have a roommate or anything like that. It was just a single room. So I'm just like, whatever you need, bro, just get it. Because before that was in the middle of our sophomore, between our junior and sophomore year, was when I had the room by myself. Did I have a roommate at then? I don't know. We always partied in my room. So we kind of got close near the end of our freshman year.
Yeah.
Through ball. And then your sophomore years when things kind of started to kind of change. And, I noticed that because, again, we were together, it wasn't that many Black people. And we were together a lot. And in that dorm, everybody kind of congregated together. But when you weren't in school, you weren't actually registered in school, and I pulled some strings and got you in the Hawthorne court. So it was the four of us in Hawthorne court, me, you, John, and Kevin in that, in our 4-bedroom place. And then you couldn't get your U-bill taken care of. I don't know if it was the parking tickets from the Accord or what, but you couldn't get your U-bill stuff taken care of. So you had to get out of there. And I remember Officer Krupke, Greg, came in and took your room. And you stayed on the couch for a little while, but that just wasn't going to be conducive for 5 of us living in this spot. And so you had to get out of there. And I'm like, what do you need? And we got TJ came and took over my room, and then me and you went over to Grand. Well, when that happened, I lost my scholarship. I lost my full scholarship, my room and board and everything like that. and I did that, moved out to help you, because I felt that I had to do that as a person, as a friend. I felt like, okay, this is a sacrifice I was going to make. Some point in time later, I did kind of blame you for the way that my life wasn't going the way that I thought it should, because again, I lost the access that I had because I was trying to help. And for years, I'm like, this dude, like I did all this for this dude, and I lost all this stuff. Um, and then in that time, we also had some other the other situation that's walking around back in the back of your crib at times. I got a girl pregnant in college, and that was another situation where I'm like, man, I'm just, my life, I didn't see my life going this, it was going a different way. And so I kind of blamed you a little bit when my life kind of took those turns. I lost a scholarship, had a kid, and I kind of put that on you for a while, because I'm like, these are situations that I might not have been in had that not happened. And I had to sit there and think about that. And I'm like, no, these aren't anything that would I have changed anything that I did? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't have changed anything that I did. I was helping a friend that needed me. And inherently, that's what I do. I want to help people. And whatever situations with other little ancillary things, and how that straight path had these little twists and turns that happened. Like I think about I part of that also was my DUI that I got, that I was a whole crock. It was the same cop that pulled me over that Thursday, but I was taking you to your car.
Right.
And had I not gone that direction, then that situation might not have happened. So there were a lot of things that I think pushed me back in my life that I kind of blamed others for. And then I blamed you for those things, but it was never your fault. And I had to think about that. And it's like, you could say it was God that intervened to kind of get me to think about it differently. But I had to sit back and think about the people in my life that meant something. And I think really what really changed that, and what really made me decide that was not the right thing to do, was John Ridgway, our friend John Ridgway. I'm calling him out on this podcast, not in a negative way, but John and I's relationship changed because of a female. We both had, I was dating a female that he really liked.
Sorry.
And so, I didn't know he liked her as much as he portrayed that he liked her. I didn't know that. And I ended up getting with this female. Then when I broke up with her, or our situation ended for what things that I had did, he jumped on it. He broke up with his girlfriend, who is now his wife. He broke up with her to get with this girl who he thought he wanted to be with, was with her for a while, and then ended up getting back with his girlfriend and now his wife. So he ruined a friendship over a girl that was just a point in time.
I'm going to say, go ahead.
Oh, the reason why I was saying that is because John then, so during that situation with that female, you had to make a decision, and you, I think, quietly made a decision to keep John and Kevin here in my mind. And that was because you were there with them. You played ball with them still. I kind of was out of that picture. I was done with that picture. Years later, I moved on and moved away from that. But the thing about that is, while you put them here and kind of made sure that friendship was good, because that's where you were, you never relinquished our friendship. Whereas other people looked at it and said, I'm separating it, I'm choosing a side. You looked at that, and I think that was when I realized that I couldn't blame you for anything there, because you had an opportunity to show me who you really were. And that was either you were really not a friend, and you were going to choose some people over me, or you were going to show that you were a friend and that you were going to weather the storm and whatever that would look like. And you decided to weather that storm and whatever it looked like. It didn't cause any issues. It just is like, hey, it's just going to be awkward when we're all together, because, hey, I'm still friends with these people. And, you know, again, John had to come to my house to beg me to be in his wedding, to be an usher at his wedding. I didn't want to be in his wedding. And he came to my house, made me go to the mall while he was going to get a present for his wife, and talked me into being a part of his wedding. And then we still don't talk. We talked like twice after that. And it's like, I was in your wedding and we don't talk. You haven't supported me in anything that I've been trying to do over years. And so that showed me who your true colors are. And so that's when I say I lost some of that trust with people. And that's where that came from. But I knew that forgiveness was always something I was taught, and I had to forgive myself in certain situations, because there's some situations that I just had to forgive myself for recently, because I kept blaming myself for them, but I did everything I could do in the right way. And so I had to kind of step back and say, hey,
we'll touch on that for sure.
Yeah, it's not my fault. I did what I could do. And so those were some of the things that all of this, looking at what God is, who God is, what Jesus is, what the Spirit is, all that to say that there are reasons why. And I'm hoping that as we get into these things in this pod, those things will be able to be explained. And that's why I kind of told this story on this first episode, because you talk about an origin story, and getting that out here early to say, hey, there was something there that might not have been godly. There might have been the devil in there trying to take something. Because I do, while I waver on God and stuff like that, I know there's a demon, there's a devil. There are demons all around us. I do believe that 100%.
Before you get too far away, I want to go back to your story.
Yo.
The one thing I was going to say is, like, since these people are alive and real, I don't know, like, the story how you described it. They might have a different side of it. So we're basically saying that was your perspective, and the gist of it is our friendship got tested and our friend group got divided.
Yes,
because of a girl.
Yeah. Yes, and I wasn't, and like I said, I wasn't blaming. I used the name.
I know, and that's that. I just wanted to because I don't know who's going to hear this. And I don't want anyone mad at episode 1, but
they need to be mad at episode 1 to make them listen to episode 2.
The important part of this I want to point out. I don't know if you remember. You probably do. We might have even been at Best Buy. I'm not sure. But I was going through therapy when I was depressed, and the therapist told me to go ask my friends what they really thought of me, because I thought I was a burden to everybody. And you and my dad were like the biggest people I was afraid to talk to. And then you were just looking at like, you basically told me I was an idiot for asking you. But that was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulder. And like I said, I knew you there's certain things I definitely knew you blamed me for that ticket. But I didn't know about the other stuff. But just you hearing, like, rehashing that story, because like in my depression, like a lot of that time is either blocked out or mushed together, and I don't think about it much because it's just hard to call back on it. But like, you literally saved my life, like, because I wasn't going home. There was no way I was going to go home, because that was one of the reasons why I was depressed. So like, you taking me in against, like, it didn't, like, when I thought about it recently, it doesn't make sense that you even let me do that, because we didn't know each other that well. But you doing that literally saved my life. So I think that's one of the reasons why, like, we're here now, is because like God has been helping and pushing.
Because you're a good dude. Like, you have a good aura around you. No matter anything that you may think, the reason why people connect. I mean, I don't know who the originator of this quote I'm about to say is, but one of my bosses, CEO of my company, at Nationwide, when I was there before he left, one of the things he always used to talk about is a reason, a season, a lifetime. And you talk about people that come into your life for a reason, whether that's a girlfriend, significant other, just a friend or person. People are in there for a season, and then once that season fades, they're kind of out. I look at that like your high school friends. Sometimes most of them are seasonal. You've passed that. You're not at the same level as them. I mean, there's a couple of my friends that may listen to this. My shot put team, the three of us, we always, we were the top 3 for shot put and discus, and we did this. And you met him, Derek and Wiggins. And me and Wiggins don't talk as much anymore. He's still my homie. I still have a lot of love for him. He's always gonna be my guy, but we don't talk as much because we don't have as much to talk about. Most of our stories are back when we were in high school. Remember when we were in high school, we did that. But then look at Derek and DA. Me and DA will meet up in Vegas or something like that. Randomly, we'll be in the same place at a certain same time. I was in Chicago one time, and I posted something like, "Man, I'm in Chicago." We linked up, and that's when I met his now wife. But we have stories outside of that, and I talk about that as like that's a lifetime. I look at people like you. That's a lifetime. I was just in Chicago with PJ, those and Jen. Those are lifetimes. And so, but again, these reasons, these seasons, these lifetimes, a lot of things pass, but those strong ones, are going to be there for that lifetime. And so I always felt that with you, no matter what. And I will say, and I just had this conversation with Lisa, a couple months ago, because I've been pushing people out. I've been like giving up, saying, I don't give a damn about this person, that person, or the other thing, because I know we're all going through things, but I've always seemed like I've always been the one reaching out to people, making sure everybody's all right. I've always been that connector. And when I go to my therapist, I still talk to my therapist. I talk to a therapist like monthly. And when I talk to the therapist, I'm always giving and not ever don't feel like I'm ever getting my cup filled back. And I told Lisa the other day, I'm like, it's been good to reconnect with you the past, it's been like 3 years, a little over 3 years that me and you really began to get back our friendship with me, because I was back in Iowa for so long. That was one of the hard things. It started to rebuild when you came out to Cali in 2012, when we was at the crib at Leon's crib, you came out.
Never happened. That never happened.
You never came out never came out of California. But no. So, future forward to that. Yeah. But as we'll get into that later. But as we close this episode, we're gonna close this episode, and what we're gonna close this episode is a question. It has nothing to do with the podcast. But what it's gonna do is what she said when she saw him. What did Tina say when she met your dad this weekend for the first time? That's how we're closing this off, because we haven't had the conversation. So audience, this is live and in effect right now. I have not had this question answered. Tina just met Leonard Thomas for the first time.
It's Reverend Leonard Thomas.
Huh?
It's Reverend Leonard Thomas.
Okay, sorry, Reverend Leonard Thomas. What happened? What is that?
It was chill, man. It was nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I was like a kid in a candy store because we went to Lawrence. So
yeah,
it was all good.
It was all good.
Yeah,
that's good.
He didn't say anything crazy. Yeah. No.
He ain't text you and say what she said when she saw it.
No.
She ain't said okay. He said no. He changed then. He's changed a little bit in his old age.
He has to, because if he's like he was, 10 years ago, he might end up missing.
Yeah, I get that. And on that note, that was in the fog.
Yes.
Episode 1. One down. We're gonna get this out there to you. Like, subscribe wherever we put this out at. But this is episode 1. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you're gonna come back. Holla.
All right.